Sam, and I'm talking about Mars in Capricorn. When Mars is in Capricorn, it's in its sign of exaltation. Now, you might wonder, why is Mars exalted in Capricorn? Capricorn's ruled by Saturn, difficult sign. It's, it has a naturally inimical relationship with Saturn, that ruler. So it's interesting, and exaltation points are sort of wild cards. Usually students put way too much importance on the judgment of an exalted planet, meaning thinking, well, it's exalted, so it's good. This kind of judgment, this simple, sort of simple-minded conclusion that students put on things to make them good or bad. Probably the worst violator is with exalted planets or with debilitated planets. So they're sort of wild cards. So Mars in Capricorn is in its sign of exaltation, but we want to examine why and even sort of look beyond that dignity of exaltation. And when we do that, we see why and what part of the planet gets exalted. That's in all cases, that's a general principle, but we'll apply it just strictly to Mars in Capricorn now. So usually what we want to do is look at the damaging part of the planet and how the exaltation actually supports it. Supports the power of the planet. So the power of Mars is the power for us to destroy what's making us weak, thereby making us strong, and giving us the capacity to suffer in the moment for our principles. So we all have principles, and we tend to argue over those principles and get into battle over our principles, and then destroy connections with people. This is a negative part of Mars. Or so we don't choose our battles wisely. Instead of taking that fire of Mars to identify what's right, because that's what our principles are doing. We defend our principles with words and get into arguments and battles, or we put our principles into practice through powerful actions. See, actions speak louder than words, and Mars is the planet of actions. And our actions are very simple. They're black and white. We're only doing one thing at a time. I'm only doing this right now. Okay? These are my actions. And when we do the actions, or when we act in accordance with what we know is right, then we're using the power of Mars in the correct way. When instead we turn what's right into some concept, into some principle that we defend through our language and through words and through other kinds of concepts, then we can really misuse the energy of Mars. Maybe we won't. Maybe we will defend what is right in the highest sense, but we will defend what's right through actions, and then it will be Dharma. If we defend what's right through arguing and using Mars to argue rather than using Mercury, Mercury is the speaker, Mars is the doer. So when Mars is speaking, for example, that's called an argument. It's called a confrontation. It's called conflict. Mars speaking creates conflict, where someone backs you into a corner and tries to destroy you and make subtle things black and white. That's the negative quality of Mars. Okay? So what's the positive quality of Mars? Again, it's to focus on what we know is right and act in accordance with that. So why does Capricorn, or how does Capricorn support or detract from that life lesson? Well, Capricorn's ruled by Capricorn's ruled by Saturn. Saturn is the planet that allows us to learn from our mistakes. Saturn creates pain. The pain of our mistakes is one of the big pains. The pain of the inevitable. We know that we're going to die, and that hurts us. We see other people die. That hurts us. We make mistakes. It's painful. People don't like us. We feel sensitive. It's hurtful. So Saturn is where we feel the pain of life, or where we become aware of those things that create pain. And of course, we actually feel the pain in the moon, but Saturn shows us that separation, that limitation, that boundary that makes us learn something. Because we have to function within a certain limit. And what happens when Mars is in Capricorn is we feel the pain of our mistakes. We make a mistake, we destroy something through an argument, and Saturn, being the ruler of Capricorn, creates guilt, stress about it. And we learn to be more strategic. Because Saturn is also the energy that makes us plan for the future. Like I said, it's related to time. And time doesn't mean necessarily the present moment. It first is a function of the future. Then once we stop worrying about the future, that's why Saturn is also related to worrying. Once we stop worrying about the future, we come into the present. And again, so when Mars is in Capricorn, it aligns that nature of Mars with a future goal. So we become more strategic. We realize that our actions have consequences. And rather than act impulsively and destroy the structure that we want to maintain, we become more strategic and sensitive to the mistakes we make, and we have the courage to actually not just fight for something right now, but fight for something in the future. And we plan for the future. And that becomes spiritual practice. Not just getting up early and doing yoga and doing those things now, but doing them every day. The willingness to suffer in the moment and get up and do that thing now and do what we know is right is Mars. That's doing it now. Every moment we're faced with a choice to do this action or that action. Like I said, actions are very much simple, black and white, related to Mars. I'm doing what's right or I'm not doing what's right. And by the way, even when we're not doing what's right, we'll defend what we're doing, whether it's right or not. We'll always have some way to defend it. And if someone says, "Why did you do that? That was stupid," Mars will come out and defend it, even if we know it was wrong. Just because you said it, I'll defend it. So again, the power to actually do what we know is right now and do it over and over again is why when Mars is in Capricorn, it's exalted. Because we also learn from the mistake of doing the wrong thing when Mars is in Capricorn. Because we realize how weak we are when we don't act in accordance with what we know is right. So we realize how much better we feel when we get up early and do our yoga and do our meditation, and we feel the pain of not doing it when it's in Capricorn. We know how great we feel when we do it, and we contrast that against the pain of not doing it. Again, the pain of not doing it is the fact that it's in Capricorn, where we feel the pain of our mistakes. So this is why Mars in Capricorn is exalted there, because it aligns that power to do what we know is right in the moment with the capacity to keep doing it over and over again, which is Saturn making a commitment to things over time.